This program is brought to you in part by the Eugenie and Joseph Jones Family Foundation, a local foundation proud to support education, the arts, and culture in the greater New Orleans area.
Hello, I'm Marcia Kavanaugh. Thanks so much for joining us. New Orleans has always been known for its history. Never has the height of its snowfalls been relevant to that history. But that changed this week. We'll be looking at the historic weather, including the performance by local governments, news media coverage, and also technology. Flora and the freeze, and memorable moments too. Huddled together are our Informed Sources, Errol Laborde, producer of Informed Sources, Don Ostrom, Channel 12's Future Watch reporter, Brendan Walker, news anchor, WWL Louisiana, Channel 4, and Dave Cohen, news director, WWL Radio. All right, Dave, we're going to go on over to you because what a week it has been. I mean, never in a million years would we have guessed we would have had a week like this.
You know, 10 days before Tuesday, there was all kinds of buzz on social media that long-range computer models were calling for 10 inches of snow in New Orleans. And smartphones, the apps that most smartphones use, were saying that. And a lot of people were very hesitant, like, oh, this is, And the meteorological community said, well, let's just take a breath. These are long-range models. It's difficult. The system that's going to bring us whatever we get was still out off of the Alaskan coast, wasn't even over land, hadn't even had weather balloons go in it to gather data from the system yet. So that, well, the models don't have the data they need yet. But as days and days went on, and we got closer and closer, the models continued to say 10 inches of snow, continued to come into more and more agreement. And so then came Tuesday, and it started at 3 a.m., just to our west, in the western and northern communities, that snow started to fall.
And we can take a look at the map and what it looked like from a satellite.
And that was probably around noon because at 7 a.m. it was sleet in New Orleans that turned to snow, and it did not stop.
It was 9:30.
And okay, there you go, 9:30. And it did not stop until Tuesday evening. And when it was over, officially at the airport, the National Weather Service says we recorded 8 inches of snow. That's the official reporting station. The airport didn't exist the last time we got that much snow. Airplanes didn't exist the last time we got that much snow.
That's really putting it in perspective.
So that shatters the official record at the airport, which I think was less than 2 inches that they've ever gotten at the airport. But you have to go back to 1895 to find what they called back then weather co-ops in the region, one at Audubon Park, and one of the others that recorded anywhere in the neighborhood of that much snow. So we're talking 130 years since we've seen this kind of snow.
Really just amazing. And essentially it was really over the area. I mean, some neighborhoods would maybe got a little bit more, a little bit less, but it was just entirely in our area.
There was a blizzard warning in Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Isn't that amazing?
For the first time ever in South Louisiana, the National Weather Service issued a blizzard warning, and they legitimately got a blizzard there where the winds were sustained over 35 miles an hour and the visibilities were less than a quarter of a mile. And that's what you need to call it a blizzard. Mm-hmm. We didn't quite get that here, but it started there. Yeah, it was close. We saw it coming this way, and it really was historic to watch it just keep falling and piling up. And the drifts, were easily, some areas 1 foot, 2 foot, even 3 feet of snow that drifted and accumulated.
Because we had some wind with it too.
Oh, absolutely.
Blowing that snow around. So, I mean, overall now, how did we do this? How did we handle it all?
We were just talking, and obviously it's a little early to start having after-event evaluations, and that'll all happen at the state level and the local level. But we were talking in the newsroom, and I think the one big mistake that was made was over-optimistic response. The State Office of Emergency Preparedness was saying that by today, we would be back to normal. And anyone who tried to go out this morning, tried to go to work, tried to go anywhere knows we were not back to normal. And it looks like it'll probably be Saturday, Sunday, and Monday for a normal commute. But other than that.
So why? So why though? Why is it taking so long?
Legitimately, they underestimated when you have 30-foot elevated roadways, whether they're over water or over land. You know, we always see those signs and we kind of laugh at them. Yeah, bridges freeze before land. And we always kind of laugh at that. Why are those signs all over this place? Well, they actually found out that the overpasses, the flyovers, the bridges, many of them really did, even when it was up to 40-some degrees, still had ice on them and still had compacted snow. And had the area had a fleet of salt trucks and a fleet of snowplows, and I'm not talking about a few dozen, but you need hundreds. I mean, you look at a city, you worked in Houston, Brandon, you know they have all that equipment over there. I'm from Chicago originally, you know, the plows come by the dozen, you know, but short of having that, and why would you when it's been 130 years?
We don't need.
You know, could you imagine the stories we'd be doing if over the years they kept buying snowplows?
Right. And then they went bad just sitting there on news.
Right.
Exactly.
So is this incident going to make local government rethink that?
I asked Jefferson Parish President Cynthia Lee Shang and New Orleans Homeland Security Chief Colin Arnold that question, and they both said they are ordering snowplows and salt spreaders because they're inexpensive. Now you can buy them. They literally clamp onto your existing dump trucks, your existing fleet of pickup trucks, even garbage trucks. They can keep these things that by government standards are inexpensive and at least have some of them here. Because as we know, we keep seeing things that we never thought we'd see. We have, without getting political or into the science of it, you can't argue with the fact that we're seeing wild swings of weather. And we have seen them, and we're seeing them more often, whether they're floods, more powerful hurricanes, stronger tornadoes, crazy cold. We've been seeing it lately. Yeah, we've been seeing it lately here. So we know that local government, we're waiting to hear from the state on what they plan to do with that. They already have some snow equipment for Shreveport, Monroe, Ruston, that, you know, the I-20 corridor. But we may see some more investment because it's not a huge investment just in case this happens again.
So as a population, how do you think we reacted to it all?
Giddy.
Not fearful, but giddy. I mean, worried about broken pipes, burst pipes, that's for sure.
Yeah, and even that, while there were boil water advisories for part of New Orleans East, Lafourche Parish had a boil water advisory, St. Bernard. Most of those, though, were because they fell just below that 20 PSI, pounds per square inch pressure, because people were dripping their pipes so much, and there were some breaks. But by and large, I mean, the city of New Orleans, other than a few spots out in the east, no boil water advisory. Jefferson Parish, which has 500 burst pipes every week during a normal weather situation, came through this well enough where they didn't have to, except for in Chenier down by Grand Isle, order a boil water advisory. So the power stayed on. By and large, the water pressure stayed up. And we did have, I think it's 2 fatalities in southeast Louisiana, one from a fire and one from a crash. But I think with this kind of weather in this kind of place, when you look at everything that could have gone wrong, most people were just building snow people, sledding down the levees, having snowball
fights. And staying off the roads, too. I think people really did heed that.
Until this morning, yes.
Until this morning. Well, we were told, you know, you can get out a bit, but still be very careful. All right, what an experience. So thanks a lot, Dave. So, you know, it was also a big experience for local newsrooms. This was, reporters were on the clock, like around the clock. Around the clock.
It was, but you know, this talk reminds me of a few weeks earlier, the tragedy on Bourbon Street and the policeman who shot the suspect, and the FBI would say the policeman who shot that suspect may have saved lives by getting him down. Well, I think you can say the media saved lives in this, because you're dealing with a population that doesn't know much about beneath snow there's ice, okay? And ice is slippery. You know, I mean, snow was always something that was fun, but they didn't understand the severity. And I think those kind of warnings did a lot of good in terms of getting people. whenever you see a tragedy like this, I mean, the first response is always radio, especially like WWL, which is powerful, has a news operation, and they reach a lot of people. And I think about that day of the evacuation during Katrina, that Sunday, if there were 10,000 cars on the road, 9,000 were listening to 870. I mean, it's just that important. But this also became an event that was made for television, too, because a couple of things happened. One, the power stayed on. And so whereas in the past, oh, everything's out, let me turn the radio on. Okay, the power was on. And two, nobody could go anywhere. All right, so everybody was home and they had electricity. And so the main thing you did was you watch television. And I know Brandon's going to talk a little bit about it, but I thought overall the TV coverage was excellent. And the technology and the kind of things that they can do with TV is really important and really convincing. And also the kind of information flow that they get. But even like the newspaper, I mean, this is not a newspaper story per se, but now something like The Advocate, which is really a statewide operation, and it has its website. So you were able to see a couple of days ahead of time on the website what was happening in Baton Rouge. So we were able to watch Baton Rouge in terms of guessing or trying to figure out what's going on in New Orleans. So anyway, I think the total operation of the news media was excellent, you know.
It was, certainly television coverage, and then of course there's digital media and social media, and too, so much information getting on out there, and people able to post their dog reacting to the snow or building a snowman. I mean, it was just such a big community experience. It really was.
Some stations more so than others, but they all committed a lot of time to doing the coverage.
Yeah.
Well, so it could, and I think we did it because it was fun. Sure. We did it because people loved it. But there was a threat, and we didn't know how bad it was going to get. If people had lost power and didn't have heat, if people had gone out on the roads and been slipping and sliding. And you remember the last time we had anything even, and obviously we never had anything like this in our lifetime, but the last time we had winter weather here, we had 100 and some odd cars crash on the Pontchartrain Expressway, and it took 3 days to remove them. Right. So we were enjoying it with everybody else in the media, but I think we were also there just in case it did go horribly wrong.
I remember in '89 that big freeze that came across from Texas. And that day the mayor went on television and say, everybody should go home because it was a Friday. Everybody should leave because they got this bad weather. So you had the whole city filled with people get in their cars who didn't know how to drive in ice, okay? And it was a disastrous afternoon. And so people are much better trained and cautioned about these kind of things now.
Absolutely.
Really, quite an experience. And by the way, my dog loved it.
Yeah.
I have a corgi, and he just jumped and just laid in that snow and loves to eat it. Everything. He had a lot of fun. So, Brandon, over to you. Also, we have this developing technology which allows us to get information through all kinds of sources. But we had reporters out, and it's still wonderful to have those human reporters delivering the news to us. All over our community, just spread all over our community, and they just didn't go home for 24 hours, it seems like. So tell us about how does technology help you do that?
Yeah, most definitely. So back when I started, we still had live trucks, and you would get out. Right, exactly, pretty much, which you probably wouldn't want driving around on sleek roadways. As a matter of fact, my first on-air reporting job was in the Northeast, in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, and had to cross a mountain to get to it. So the live truck wasn't going to get over there before the blizzard, so you had to have it in place perhaps a day in advance. Don't necessarily have to worry about that now to go live in general, a storm, or if you're just covering what happened on a corner. You've got the backpack technology, as we call it. Various companies have their technology. You go in, it relies on both cell phone and web technology to get on. Now, if you've got a lot of people using their phones at that time, or if it's a weather event and we're having a problem with service, that might compromise the integrity of the live picture. But that depends on the number of people out there. We didn't see a lot of that this time around, of course, because people were inside and we didn't have any power concerns. So the technology does make it easier to cover a storm like this because you can get the shot up faster, but also where you can get is also more revelatory, frankly.
So, in your interaction with those reporters, and you too, Dave, with the reporters who were out there in the field, what were they sensing? What were they experiencing? What were they learning?
So, you can see as the morning progressed, I think we started at normal time. We didn't go on any earlier, but it was 4:30 in the morning. So our first reporter out was Mike McDaniel over in Hammond. And so Mike was able to see live when the first flurries started, and he was able to track throughout the morning. 4:30, we had some snow coming through. By about 9, Mike was in the midst of what very much so looked to be a blizzard. And how they covered it was refreshing to see reporters who, more often than not, spend their days covering some very heavy material. And I think on this day, just like the people, the reporters had a chance to take a breath and really just, color by number and tell the story of people enjoying what is something we don't see here. So it was very, honestly, I was proud to see my colleagues out there having a good time, telling this story as it developed and doing so quite accurately, but also being able to live in the moment, too.
I saw several examples on a couple of stations of reporters showing their footprints.
Sure.
And you wouldn't see that in the past, but I think the new technology allowed you to do that. And that was educational, seeing their footprints, because you could see the ice underneath it.
Yeah.
It's almost like they were trained. Look, now, one thing you got to do now in the or in cold weather is show footprints.
Because how we do live shots is different because of the technology. So what you may not see on the back end of that is the photographer's wearing the backpack. So at that point, you can get in and do other things.
You don't have a million cables
Right.
anymore. It's all wireless technology. It's so much easier than it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And so they were out there in all of this weather, all of the wind, all of the snow, all of the cold, and they were out there for hours on end. How were they reacting to that? I just kept thinking, these poor folks, they've got to be so cold. Are they going to, where they're going to, get warmed up?
This was my first blizzard wherein I was not outside covering, and so I knew how they felt. And so whenever we'd ask, so how's it going out there? And their first response, well, it's cold. I mean, what else do you want to hear? So we did we did try to make sure that we spaced out the time so they can get into the live truck, or into the truck rather.
Right.
And warm up for a little bit. The equipment needs that too, because batteries drain in cold weather. So give them some time to warm up, but it was not favorable. They took it like the champs that they are.
And so the folks that were listening to you guys, Dave, I mean, what kind of responses were you getting? What kind of comments? What kind of questions? Or whatever?
It was, I don't know if y'all remember back, and I date myself now, but back there used to be group faxes, and then they became emails. There was always someone describing their experience in the snow that moved from the south to the north and talks about how beautiful it is the first morning. It's glistening and fluffy and white and beautiful. Well, that's how everyone was reacting at first. Now, as you read on, it then goes to, I had to shovel snow again today. This snow is heavy. I'm tired. Oh my God, it's slush. Now my feet are wet. My toes are freezing. But we really saw that when we went out there, I mean, it was a sense of just wonderment and merriment, and people were having fun. I mean, it was great to see the creativity of what people were bringing out to play in the snow. Right. What were they using to sled or go down the levees or whatever hills they could find around here? Some people were using inflatable pool toys.
Right.
Some people were using actual kiddie pools. Other people were the tops of plastic boxes, whatever they could find. And I think more than anything, what we saw was everyone wanting to experience it through the eyes of the children. And watch how they were just making snow angels, and then, Mom, Dad, come make one with me, and slide down with me, and then everyone became a child at that point.
Well, when else do you see New Orleans in the 30s or colder, and everybody outside and happy and not complaining about being outside when it's that cold? I mean, never. It was beautiful to see so many people outside and not, oh, it's cold and miserable, I'm staying in.
And the city looks so beautiful in the snow. It just really, really looks so beautiful. And I did see one report of some guy who was a hockey player, and he was skating out on Canal Street on the ice.
And I think we all did it. We all had people going out and taking pictures and videos of the most iconic sites, going not only, and that was one of the main things people wanted to do, was share their pictures and videos. So we were seeing people's yards, people's front doors, people's stoops, people's porches, but also going around and seeing Jackson Square and St. Louis Cathedral in the snow, seeing the Mississippi River in the snow, seeing all of these places with snow on top of them that most people alive today have never seen with snow on them before.
Right.
That's one of those oak trees that had clusters of snow on them, looked like camellia trees all of a sudden. So.
Yeah, someone sent me a picture saying, look at the magnolia on my tree. And it was, snow that looked like a magnolia. Sure. And speaking of trees and plants, I mean, how are they going to survive this?
So I spent a long time speaking with Dan Gill, LSU Ag Center. The first words he wants to share with everyone are just relax about your plants. There's absolutely nothing you can do for them yet that will help them. If they're going to die, they're going to die. If they're going to live, they're going to live. You do not need to be cutting them back or anything yet. You can wait till it warms up a little. You can wait till the mud goes away from the snow. The one thing you do want to do, any plants you brought inside to stay out of the cold, you do want to get back out, because the plants don't like that drier, less humid environment in your house, lack of sunlight. Anything you covered, you want to uncover. They'll start starving for that light. But as far as the plants that are planted in your ground, you can wait 7 to 10 days, evaluate the damage. You can wait till spring to actually mitigate any of the damage. It's not going to impact the way they come back. In terms of the tropical plants, the herbaceous ones like ginger and bird of paradise and elephant ears, the ones that don't have a brown sticky stem on them, their damage will be obvious, and you can cut them down to the ground when you're ready. Cut them all the way back where you can see their damage. And then maybe if you cut them back sooner than later, put some fresh mulch around them to protect them for the next time, if there is a next time. The woody tropicals, the hibiscus tree-like plants, you can take your thumbnail actually and scratch from the top out and in until you get to where you see green under that first layer of bark. If you're seeing brown, it's dead, it's dead, it's dead, until you get to the green, and then that's where you'll want to cut those back. Again, you don't have to do any of this cutting back until springtime. It's going to look ugly for a while. It has to, it just will. They won't need any water. There's plenty of water in the ground from all this snow. You don't really have to worry about the fact that there was snow. The snow doesn't do any damage. What does the damage to the plants is the actual temperatures. And at least on the south shore of New Orleans, we did not get terribly, terribly cold to kill off most of our things. Our palms should all be fine. The herbaceous tropicals should come back once you cut them down a little, because it didn't get under 20 degrees. In places where it was, places farther west where they had single digits and teens, there will be more damage. Just expect it to be ugly for a while. There are broken branches. I know I lost a couple big ligustrum branches, fell off because of the weight of the snow or something. Cut those back carefully. Come springtime. Again, it really is, there is no rush, there's no hurry. In terms of crops, the strawberries should have been at a perfect time to not be damaged by the weather, because maybe they're not flowering yet. Citrus might be a concern. We'll have to check into that as we get a little further down the road, but it'll be hard to tell. We won't know really for sure till late March, early April, what's going to stay and what's going to go.
What about bulbs? Did you talk to them at all, like amaryllis or tulips?
They should be fine.
Like
anything that was up, just trim it all the way back. The bulbs should be safe under the ground. They're designed for that.
Okay, well, we hope so. We would like to get them all back.
Yes.
That's for sure.
And anything that's bent and weak right now, even pansies, should pop back up and prop itself back up. Just give it a little time. So don't rush out this weekend and do a lot of cutting and don't kill yourself. It's going to be muddy and gross this weekend. Get the plants back out. It will be really muddy and gross after that much snow. Give yourself a break. Get the indoor plants back that came in back out, and get them some fresh water. But otherwise, just
they're pretty tough on banana trees, so.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
They will come back too, though. Just cut them,
oh,
cut
yeah,
them back.
It's hard to kill those banana trees. It takes a lot. All right. So this was just really an incredible historic event. So just go around the table, and why don't you recount what are the most memorable things for you?
Well, I'll credit this to Katie Moore at Channel 4. At one point during the day, she was anchoring, and she was saying, in New Orleans, we got this disadvantage because we have hurricanes, and because of hurricanes, we have to build levees. But because we have levees, when it snows, we have hills where you can go sledding, so sledding. So we got a whole city full of hills for sledding. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, that's the advantage. I think also, though, just the which you'll refer to, the discovery of a lot of people. I mean, they've seen snow before, but they've never seen snow like this. I mean, in my lifetime, when it snowed, maybe you had something that came at noon, and by 4 it was all gone. We've never seen anything lingering like this for a while, and really having the snow experience and the ice and all that. And so it's a real learning experience that we've had.
Yeah, it definitely has been. I'm going to go around the table. Dawn, over to you.
I grew up with snow and love a snow. There are people who either love a snow day or you hate a snow day. I fall in the category of love a snow day, go out in it all day long. I kind of wish I had I do have a mom still, but not here. I didn't like being the one who had to make the food at the end of the day and play in it all day. Fortunately, my regular job outside of television, I didn't have to be working during the storm, and I told my teenage children they better be ready to play, and we sledded on the levees the whole time, and it was a blast, and boogie boards work great in snow.
Okay, that's good to know. Brandon, over to you. You're memorable.
Definitely. So you learn after I spent maybe 18 years away from home, moved back a little over a year and a half ago. You tend to keep New Orleans with you. What was pretty remarkable about the imagery of this is you had New Orleanians in the midst of what did not look like New Orleans, in the middle of a snowstorm with a second line, or these little idiosyncrasies that are New Orleans in New Orleans, but in a way where New Orleans really isn't New Orleans. And that goes to show you, it's a word we throw around a lot, and say what you want to say about resiliency, and I get it, but it shows just how you take New Orleans with you wherever you go, and even when the present sense of where we are being New Orleans is a bit different, it's still New Orleans.
It definitely is, and that means the whole community too, down in the bayous, in the city, in the suburbs, North Shore. Everybody really got into this and really did enjoy it. Dave?
I walked out of our downtown office building at one point, and I heard what sounded like screaming and shrill screams, and I thought someone was injured, maybe had slipped and fallen, maybe. I didn't know what was going on. And then I heard others screaming and all this screaming, and I got concerned. And I turned the corner, and a bunch of hotel employees had come outside and were having a snowball fight.
Oh, nice.
And were making snow angels, and they were so excited about this that they were just, it was enthusiastic, emotional response that once I saw the smiles on their face, I let my guard down. Oh, they're just happy. But it just, it was so loud and so dramatic when they came running out and saw all of that snow everywhere. And that'll stick with me. And you talked about the creativity of New Orleanians and taking it with you. The snow images, the snow king cakes people made, the snow fleur-de-lis.
Snowballs.
Yeah, literally scooping up snow, pouring snowball syrup on it and eating it.
I wouldn't recommend that. As you were.
Well, any of us who grew up north ate snow, and we lived.
Okay,
So I think everyone will be all right from eating a little bit of snow, as long as it was fresh. We won't go anywhere else. What was your favorite memory?
Just sitting there in my house, because I'm sort of beyond going sledding down a levee. Just sitting there and watching it fall. And I had the television on, listening to all the coverage and really admiring and respecting what all of you guys were doing. And I was listening to you, but I was looking at it fall, thinking, I'm going to do this while I can, because God knows if I'll ever have the chance again, or anybody in the city for that matter, because it's been, 130 years since we had such a snowfall. I just thought the beauty of it, and also the happiness of it, seeing people just enjoying it so much.
Usually when we cover an extreme weather event, it's a tragedy.
Right.
And there's death and there's destruction and there are FEMA claims and insurance claims, and it's bad. This was a dramatic weather event that by and large, there was some frustration with travel today. There was a lot of people upset it took so long to clear the roads, but by and large, it was a happy thing. Right. And when we look back, it's almost all happy memories.
Yeah, really a momentous
That's
time.
rare.
And that
really.
should be underscored.
All right, guys, we are out of time. Thanks a lot for joining us. We'll see you again next week for Informed Sources. Have a good evening.
This program is brought to you in part by the Eugenie and Joseph Jones Family Foundation, a local foundation proud to support education, the arts, and culture in the greater New Orleans area.